Hi everyone, I'm Duvan Cardona and I'm going to share with you 5 strategies or 5 classroom management strategies we're trying in 3 specific cases. To start with, we have case number 1 where there is a requirement to use better and more an English or English in class. So one of the strategies I recommend is to start by ritualizing the use of classroom language to interact in class. Sometimes we take for granted that students have a lot of repertoire or expressions to use in class. And this is erroneous or incorrect thought because many students do not have the level to interact even at this stage. So I think from the beginning we need to introduce a classroom language input. This will give students a general communication competence. So they will rise their learning self-esteem in some way because they can now interact with the teacher and with other students in English at certain level. Of course, interactions that is meaningful and real because it's a part of the class. It raises participation and interaction. This first strategy relates to a second idea or a second strategy, which is to master grouping techniques and methods. We know that English in class is sometimes difficult, especially the speaking is quite a difficult skill for students. So grouping techniques and methods can help us, or mastering, or knowing about grouping techniques and methods can help us allow interaction between students, especially to model different conversation and to use different conversational structures. And students prefer to interact with small groups than with large audiences. And this is something that we can benefit from because they can practice at different levels of interaction, and they will gain a lot of performance or skill in performing. With the correct instruction, grouping can give students confidence to produce orally and become more independent. So when we use grouping techniques and methods, when they work together first and then they can do more autonomous work. We have a second case. In this case, we have a group of disturbing and noisy students who are not engaged with class. And my first recommendation would be to involve these kind of students in class. So something is not attracting them to the class when they are behaving in that way, probably because they do not feel involved in the class. And in order to involve students and engage them with the class, so the first thing I think they need to know is that they are part of the class. This is why I highly recommend to design ground rules with students and considering their proper needs and understanding of what a class is or what a good class should be. Consider students' interests and needs. These noisy and disturbing students sometimes they just part aside because they don't feel attracted to the class because they are not the class doesn't fulfill their interests or needs. So it's interesting or important to know what they like, what they don't like, and especially what elements of learning do they really engage in. And make students busy and useful. Sometimes these students have a lot of energy. So in my case, what I do is that I involve them more than the others. I try to give them different and useful tasks that they can do extra in the class. I make them feel part of a useful team. I don't do it only with them. I engage others who are good students and are engaged with the class. So they start copying these good behaviors and they start changing towards the class. I also think that it's important to provide sufficient input and instruction. This is something that was said and discussed in the mock course, and the instruction, clear instruction, sufficient uh, instruction, and well given instruction is a very important thing for students. This gives them a road and tells them what exactly to do. And there's another second recommendation I would give is to talk to the students and their parents. Sometimes they act this way because they don't feel part of the learning community. So it's interesting to have a chat with them, to get to know them better, to see if they have any psychological problem, to see if you can do something to help them, to establish why they are behaving this way. And I think that involving parents is also part of the process, not just to punish or to settle negative compromises, but better to compromise on different attitudes, or to compromise on giving feedback to the student, or the compromises would also involve the teacher, the parent, and the student. It's important to highlight the good things that these students have or do, because these students could be reluctant to participate and to be active members of the learning community, probably because they feel just that they are way behind the others, or there's an emotional factor or a learning factor that is putting them behind. So I think this is what we call Spanish acompañamiento, right? It's part of that my strategy or the suggestion I give. Finally, the third case is students that hate English. They lack motivation to learn English. So my first strategy is to add variety to our planning. Don't be predictable. Better spark curiosity. So classes tend to be methodic, traditional, sometimes grammar based. And I think these kind of classes, when they are always given this way, they start to hinder motivation. So what I suggest is to use a positive and active language in the first place, always. That is something that is quite relevant for students. If you speak always like encouraging your students, highlighting their achievements, saying that they can do it, and not also that when they do it, mention how good, how well they did, and how they can achieve, even though they found it difficult. Also, it's important that in our planning, in our lessons, we use realia in class. This means that we bring to our classes not only paper and letters and presentations. Let's bring different realia. So if we're talking about different vocabulary related with clothing, then let's bring clothing. If we're talking about food, let's do something with food. This really engages students using realia. Realia is also part of technology, so bringing technology to class is also very motivating for them. Use familiar and contextualized input in the planning. So when something is not familiar to us, we tend to avoid it. We don't engage with it, so we don't participate, or we just don't follow. And in this case, when the opposite, when something is familiar and contextualized, then we tend to engage with it, to rise our motivation, and to participate. The second and final suggestion I would give is to bring lessons to life. Engage students in tasks and activities that they feel familiar with and that are meaningful for them. So again, this is likely a contextualizing suggestion, because if the tasks and activities that we develop and we plan and we design are not realistic and meaningful for them, then they just don't engage with them. So let's be creative, let's be realistic, let's be meaningful, bring, in our case, Colombia like tasks. Of course, we can share different cultures and aspects from other cultures, but let's make our Colombian things worth it. And finally, challenging activities are better than lazy activities. I highly believe that when we change our teaching method to make it a little more challenging, probably the students sometimes react like it's something impossible, but if you give the proper input, instruction, and you monitor the process and you assist the process, and when they get to achieve the activity or the task, they really empower themselves and they engage with learning. So motivation is a matter of contextualization, of bringing the lessons to something meaningful for them, and especially to engage them with things that trigger their motivation and their interests. So this is my overview or my suggestions to the three cases given in this task, and it's nice to share with you all this process. Thank you very much.